gonna lose my house.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they truly hold up. Not only today am I holed up with Andrew, but I have a very special guest. We're here with Aaron Strand, the director of the upcoming film Withdrawal and the host of the Behind the Slate and Crash Zoom podcast. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
We want to apologize for your Georgia Bulldogs. I know I told you that earlier, but I really want to make sure that
you're
everybody...
a Georgia fan.
I am a
You
Georgia
had a nice
fan.
Basketball win last night.
We did, yeah.
I sat and watched that in anger, but good for you. Good for you.
Well, we don't get many of them.
You've beaten us 2 out of 3 years there in Athens, I think.
I believe someone just dropped the stats that like Kentucky has won like 85% of all the games I've ever played in Athens.
It's something astronomical, but I think y'all have a good basketball team.
Did you love the word he used, astronomical? That was his detailed word.
I mean, it's that way with most teams in the SEC, if we're being honest. That's not me being a braggart. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen,
So-
I would rather be astronomical in football than basketball, personally.
There you go.
So we all get things to cheer for.
Well, Aaron, for those people that live under a rock or a brick or whatever they're living under, tell us a little bit about some of the podcasts and some of the work you got going on before we dive into our film.
Yeah, for sure. Like you mentioned, I host 2 podcasts. The first is called Behind the Slate, which is where I take long-form history deep dives into the life and work of cinema's greatest directors. And as part of that, I've been doing live shows here in Atlanta at the Plaza Theater, which has been super fun, where I do like a little mini version of the podcast. We watch the film and then audience discussion sticks around afterward, which you guys have come out to, and I'm really grateful for the support. And we got a show coming up on January 23rd. I'll be screening Agnes Varda's Cleo from 5 to 7. It's just such a fantastic film that I really, really love, and I'm really excited to talk about. And then I have a new show called Crash Zoom, where I am joined by Rough Draft Atlanta film critic Sammy Purcell. We talk about all the latest entertainment headlines and really through the lens of like how decisions made at the very top affect working class artists. And so that's a brand new show. We've only been doing it for about a month, and I'm able to get all these takes off my chest,
Yeah.
that I'm just walking around saddled with takes, so I'm finally able to unload them into a microphone.
Which I'm a big fan of Behind the Slate. That's how I came to find out who you were, is through that podcast. It almost feels like stalking sometimes when you hear somebody through a podcast first and then you meet them secondly.
Yeah, totally.
That's a great show. Like, I highly recommend it to anybody out there.
And go to some of the screenings he has at the Plaza. We went and saw Rolling Thunder and learned a little tidbit of history that, I didn't even really know existed. Kind of opened my eyes to things. So do it.
What was the tidbit?
I didn't even really know much about Rolling Thunder. I didn't know the connections to Taxi Driver and all that, and the whole like post-core Vietnam darkness of American film. I didn't know that was a real thing. You have your movies here and there, but I didn't know that was part of it. So it was cool to see that and experience it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I enjoyed the movie. I wasn't like blown away, but I was left affected. Like I felt pretty empty inside after that. And
I don't really get like Tarantino's whole like, I saw this movie and it like was the greatest movie I've ever seen. I think that one's like a slow burn. But then as like a personal experience, like you watch it and then it kind of sticks with you. And then when you go back and watch it again, that's when it like the magic really starts to come alive.
Speaking of great movies and nostalgic and Quentin Tarantino, we watched Jungle to Jungle. Was that a great transition or what? I was holding on to
that was
one.
perfect. I think Tarantino put it in his top 10 for the Sight and Sound
yes.
ballot.
Maybe top 5.
Yeah.
Is Tim Allen like Tarantino's boy? Like,
he's a constant inspiration to Tarantino's work.
He
for
talks
sure.
about that. Yeah. That chapter in Cinema Speculation about Tim Allen.
so good.
Some of his best writing.
We wouldn't have Tarantino without Tim Allen. So
you heard it here first.
Yeah.
All bow to Tim.
Yeah. Maybe Tarantino's 10th film, we can get Tim Allen in it.
Oh,
Can you
God.
imagine?
What a dream.
Can you imagine Tim Allen in Pulp Fiction or something?
What do they call it? A quarter pounder with cheese.
But yeah, it'd be great.
We had to like put Martin Short in there too as his little sidekick.
Marty
God,
Short.
dude.
What a gem.
Yeah.
Aaron, why did we watch Jungle to Jungle?
I have no idea.
No, it was seriously such a great pull. Like, that's a 90s deep cut that people forget about.
They do. See, here's the thing is that I have a lot of cinema conversations. I have a lot of nerdy cinema friends, and Jungle to Jungle is just one of those movies of that, like, when it comes up, it just instantly gets a reaction of like, oh shit, Jungle to Jungle, bro. I haven't thought about that movie. I also had an interesting reaction, though, because I told a female friend of mine who's like my same age or so. And when I mentioned Jungle to Jungle to her, her eyes lit up. And she said that this was basically like, sort of a sexual awakening, seeing young Mimi Siku. She thought Mimi Siku was hot stuff. When she was
stay tuned.
Kid, yeah.
Shirtless 13-year-old boy for the entire movie, essentially.
He was pretty ripped, though.
He was.
Yeah, for 13.
Hey, if you're living in the
more ripped than I
wilderness,
am
you
now.
should be ripped. That hunter-gatherer body right there,
Don't make it weird.
Sorry.
Don't make it weird, man.
That's Andrew. That's what he does.
Yeah, I ruined the whole vibe from time to time, so if you feel I'm acting out, just yell at me.
Kick him under the table.
Yeah, just kick me on my shins.
So we talked about like doing a film. I was like, Aaron, you get to pull right now and tell me something nostalgic. What is nostalgic about Jungle to Jungle? I like, other than what you just said, like I feel like every 90s kid remembers this.
Yeah. Well, it was part of this like whole wave of like jungle core, like of late 90s jungle core.
George of the Jungle.
George of the Jungle, Congo.
Tarzan was around that time too.
Me and my childhood best friend, we were really into The Crocodile Hunter, Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
Big Steve Irwin fans.
R.I.P. Love
Yeah,
that guy.
of course. So something like this whole like weird, Orientalism is not the word, but it's very this like American like fantasy of what jungle life like might be like, just seeped into the 90s bloodstream. And Jungle to Jungle just totally captured the fantasy of like a little kid being from the jungle and coming to America. And yeah, it really stuck with me. Me and my friend watched this on VHS from the rental store like over and over and over again. And then of course I didn't think about it for like 25 years. So then like just talking about Jungle to Jungle again, it's just so shocking that this movie ever was made.
I feel like also like that jungle theming was kind of like that wild coming out of you, like the like Call of the Wild kind of thing. And it felt like it was very much a Generation X kind of theory.
Like, Gen X, like tribal drum circles, but like pre sort of like the anger of new metal. It was like there was that brief sort of like tribal sort of thing.
Yeah.
You picking up what I'm laying down here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Andrew was a fetus too when all this was happening.
I was 5.
Exactly.
So pretty much a fetus.
Like, I think like how old were you when Jungle to Jungle came out? Because it was 97.
97. So I was 9. I was
9. Okay,
Oh,
nice.
shit.
Yeah.
I am a baby.
You are.
I'm so worthless and young.
God. 97. There was a lot of these like bad movies.
There's a plethora of garbage around that era, if we're being honest.
It felt like it all got looped in, and correct me if I'm wrong or if you're not feeling the same thing, but it was like always like a terrible father meets an life-altering thing where he like throws his entire life away instead of just making the subtle changes to be a better father.
The estranged father was such a common theme back then.
Well, I feel like there's like two things, right? It's like number one is that the 90s it was marked by boomers like, realizing that they had like a lot of money and everyone was sort of like drowning in sort of the malaise of their bourgeois lives. Yeah. The divorce rate was continuing to rise. So divorce was like a more common thing. And I think that studios continued to look at Kramer versus Kramer as this sort of like holy grail of original storytelling and like the power of Kramer versus Kramer, which I think was like the #1 movie at the box office the year that it came out. Now, granted, this is 15 years afterward, but the narrative power of divorce and the broken home and a father trying to be a good father, I feel like Kramer versus Kramer really set that trend, and Hollywood basically rode that train for like 2 decades.
Might be onto something. Very might be onto something.
That's your next book if you haven't written a book yet. Maybe it's your next documentary.
The Kramer versus Kramer effect.
Or just a manifest. Doesn't have to be a book, just a manifest. 10 pages, something. People will read it,
Andrew, what do you remember about
I remember
Jungle
going to seeing this in theaters, but honestly, rewatching it last night, I didn't really remember much at all. I just remember Tim Allen being a big fucking deal back then. You had the Santa Claus in 94, you had Toy Story, and I think in 97, wasn't it? Or 96, it was sometime around
I think it was
this.
96 was Toy Story.
But then, this one, Tim Allen was on a movie poster. You were probably going to see that movie. If you were a younger kid, your parents were going to take you to see that.
Oh, yeah. Good, clean family fun.
Yeah, there you go. So I remember going to see it, but I don't remember the movie whatsoever. It definitely had left my memory bank, but here we are, ready to get back into it. So.
I was watching it last night, and I was like, I don't remember any of this. I don't think I ever watched it, or at least fully watched it.
Really?
Like it probably came on Disney Channel at some point, and I probably like caught bits and pieces here and there. But I do remember vividly the VHS. at like Blockbuster when you would go in,
Yes.
because it had like Tim Allen with the
headdress and an arrow in his mouth.
and you had no clue what was going to happen.
And he's like shirtless but like painted.
Yeah,
He's got
and
lots of feathers.
And it took me being 33 years old to realize, jungle to jungle. Yeah,
It
like,
hit me last night, like halfway through. I was like, I
New
get
York
it.
City is a
How
jungle.
clever.
What's so funny about that title is Disney would never allow the number 2 in a title because obviously you need sequels to be 2. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
But to be fair, this is a remake for anybody
true.
that has no clue. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
I missed that in my research. Please enlighten me.
a French film named Little Indian in Big City.
Yes.
So,
I bet that one's gold too.
so this is a sequel.
Which Disney released a dubbed version of 3 years before Jungle to Jungle came out.
Oh my god!
Yeah, yeah. It's famous because Roger Ebert saw Little Indian Big City, gave it 0 stars, and so he deigned to give Jungle to Jungle 1 star.
He said it was slightly better.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew. Now that we're talking about numbers, what kind of juicy numbers are we looking at?
All right, so
for Jungle to
I
Jungle?
always like to do this. I just want you all to guess what you think the budget is.
Oh, at the time with Tim Allen probably like demanded a high paycheck.
And they filmed in Venezuela. They actually did.
I'm gonna go with 27 million.
Very close. 32 million.
Oh, nice.
So
It's like you almost like know a film budget. Withdrawal, was that budget 27 million?
No, it was not.
So released on March 7th, 1997. Opening week got about 13 million back.
Okay.
And then there are no international numbers, but domestic altogether. Guess again for me. Humor me. What do you think domestic gross is
So
here?
what did you say the opening weekend was again?
Right around 13 million.
13 million opening in March. You got to guess, Chase?
One guess each, and then I'll just
Okay.
I'm gonna say it didn't make the 32 back.
You were wrong.
I'm gonna say 38.
59.
Wow.
Essentially 60 million.
Okay, so it pretty much did it. And with home video, it definitely made its budget
sure.
back.
So
Marketing budget.
Got a nice little chunk back.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Did not beat the Santa Claus, as you said. Not even close.
No, did not
Yeah.
beat Santa Claus. That's okay. But this is a Disney win on their budget book.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty good at that stuff, though.
They
Like,
know how to market the shit out of things and wave it in our faces and get Midwesterners and Middle Americans to buy in and love it.
that goes back to what we all said: Home Improvement, Tim Allen. Everybody was going to
Yeah.
get like people were going to take their kids to see this.
Yes, although I will say that this probably marks the beginning of the end. We are post peak.
Yeah. We're at the downfall of Tim
Yeah.
Allen at this point.
Not the nadir, but definitely the backside of the cresting wave.
Until Tarantino resurrects his career.
Oh God,
2 to 5 years.
Do the John treatment for Tim Allen.
I'd love it if Tim Allen had a cameo in his final movie coming up in a couple of years.
And Dennis Quaid as well.
Oh, God, my heart would be so full. Along with Kurt Russell, too. Got to throw Kurt Russell in there as well.
For sure. All right, are we ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is going to be a long one. So I do want to make mention, this film seemed very long to me, and I saw that the runtime was an hour and 45, and it felt a little long. Did anyone else feel that?
A tad bit, yeah. I was about an hour in, and I was like, we still got 45 left. Why not like 25?
Yeah, it has a sort of episodic, almost sketch-like structure. Once maybe Siku comes to Manhattan, with these like very sort of like sketchy set pieces, and a sort of, I don't think it's like a poorly written film, but I think the sketch nature of it feels a little repetitive, and the rising action doesn't quite like take us all the way to the third act.
Yeah.
But we'll get into it as we kind of talk through the beats.
I got to say something. The little title screen, Jungle to Jungle, did that feel very word art-esque to you? When you
Word
saw
art?
it? You remember word arts like on like your old like PC back in the day?
Oh yeah,
I just thought it was very like lame. It was not professional looking, or it didn't blow my mind. I was like, I could have made that. And I'm not a graphic designer at all.
Disney had to cut budget somewhere. And it was
Yeah.
going to be their title screen.
It was a black screen with like a border that looked sort of like tribal-esque and just Jungle to Jungle and like green and red letters.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, the first thing I saw, and it just, stuck with me.
I don't know. From the second it started, it brought me right back. Again, for the record, I have not seen this movie since I was like 9 or 10 years old. I immediately upon seeing those titles, I was like locked in.
Yeah,
and you know what they didn't skimp on was that helicopter. And
yeah.
because the opening shots of this film absolutely gorgeous.
Pretty stunning.
Yeah, and that's probably where a lot of the budget went too to do this
Tim
opening
Allen
scene.
and the helicopter.
Yeah, it's like
And I'll be honest, I didn't know where it was supposed to be when I first saw it because I didn't realize it was Venezuela. So my mind was like, where the fuck is this? Where
Yeah.
did they go to shoot this?
Yeah.
This is gorgeous. Are they in Africa? Are
I thought they were in China, like the Apple
Or something
screensaver,
like
like,
that.
the
Yeah.
Apple TV screensaver,
Yes.
you know?
But no, it was legitimately Venezuela.
I mentioned the length of this movie because a lot of kids' films at the time, due to attention span, and which
They were like 90
movies seem to
minutes
get longer.
tops.
Yeah, they were 90 minutes. I don't know if you know this, but a huge case of film was lost in a taxi somewhere when they were filming in New York.
What?
So there's no telling what the director's cut of this film would have looked
Oh
like.
my God.
So
the,
they
the
shot
lost
more.
gold of
Yeah.
Jungle to Jungle.
So somewhere out there is a case of film that has a day's worth of shooting on it.
If you have the missing scenes of Jungle to Jungle, please get in touch with
Let
the
us
Hold Up
know.
Hold Up
Podcast.
podcast. We'll send you an address to send everything to. So
And then we might get in the Smithsonian or something like that.
no,
Put it where
we all know
where
people
it
burn that
belongs.
film.
exactly.
This is probably like an NC-17 cut.
Oh my goodness.
Like Mrs. Doubtfire, like that one of those rare cuts.
Yeah, or the clown laughs. I would put this up next to the clown laughs as the great missing things. This and the Magnificent Ambersons.
It's out there somewhere. If you have it, please contact us. Let's begin. So I don't think we started in Venezuela though. We started in the stock market, don't we?
Yes, it was the opening scene was the stock exchange.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I've
Yeah.
already like reorganized it in my head.
That's okay. I've probably done that with other scenes as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're fighting and bartering and
Sure,
trading.
Jungle
and,
number one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's pure chaos like the stock market is. And this is where Tim Allen's character is vigorously buying coffee stock.
Yeah, coffee option.
How many shares was it in total? Like 300 or something like that?
300,000, right?
300,000, like
Yeah.
worth over $1 million, which isn't that much, I guess, if you were a stock trader. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about in terms of stock trading, so excuse my ignorance.
It seemed
but
to be he was like working for some sort of like boutique kind of brokerage because
Yes.
it wasn't. It's not Goldman Sachs here.
I guess that they were just wanted to establish the jungle of New York City, and they wanted
Right.
to establish, I guess, the greed of Tim Allen. But he doesn't really come off as greedy. He just comes off as like doing his job as a
didn't-
stockbroker.
He's kind of cocky.
Yeah.
kind of, but he didn't seem like a total asshole. He
No.
was just, living his life.
No,
you know?
I think, and it establishes the dynamic between him and Martin Short.
Yes.
Yeah, good old Martin Short,
Oh yeah.
the best side character we will ever have.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I think this is their only like hookup outside of doing Santa Claus 3, right?
Oh, tragedy.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I
I
think
could have sworn they did other stuff.
Maybe they did.
No, that's just the Mandela effect in your
It
head.
is.
That's the Mandela effect of Jungle to Jungle.
Oh God! If I'm Martin Short, I probably wouldn't want to work on anything else after that with him. And then I think we cut to Venezuela, so we're getting all those
Okay.
beautiful shots. He's going to Venezuela to
Get a divorce.
get a divorce.
He has to fly to Caracas.
Yeah.
Well, no.
first.
Hold on. First, no. We get the sweeping shots of Mimi Siku paddling
Oh, yes.
alone up the river,
Yeah.
And he
and then he climbs a mountain,
and he
go-
screams over the
and he
valleys.
just goes, "Oh!"
Yes.
It's like we're really seeing his freedom as a
white tribal
as a
man
white
As a
in the
tribal
jungle.
boy. Oh my
13-year-old
God.
boy too.
But isn't that like so? I mean, isn't that just like such a weird Western fantasy of like
yeah.
this sort of like back to nature childhood?
With perfect skin and perfect hair and like
Oh yeah, it's
like
not maimed at all.
Yeah.
Great teeth too.
great
Yeah.
teeth,
Great teeth.
great teeth.
That was my one question. Like, how did he have such beautiful teeth from start to finish?
Maybe
he had
listen
better
some-
teeth than Tim Allen.
Yeah, seriously.
So we have that shot to establish his freedom, and Tim Allen's trying to get divorced. He's going all like, the first opening 10 to 15 minutes of this, I was like, what? It's taking you 13 years to get a divorce.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it's like you haven't talked to her in 13 years. You finally just had to trace her down.
Very cordial reunion
Yeah.
after a 13-year like abandonment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that some people are hesitant, but some jump right into a relationship with someone who is, married or they know it's on the fritz. But like they'd been together, it seemed, for a long time. It's like, oh, he'll get divorced eventually. I'm not going to worry about this now.
And people at home who've never seen this are probably like, what the actual fuck are you guys talking about? And we don't know. Basically, Tim Allen's getting married to this fashionista, I guess.
An artist.
An artist.
She's
and,
an
artiste.
and but he's still married to his ex-wife.
He's getting
for-
divorced like 2 or 3 weeks out from when he's supposed to get married to this fashion.
And he's
Yeah,
been married
yeah.
for 13 years, right?
Yeah, or longer. They've been estranged for 13 years.
Yeah.
He wants to marry this vapid, self-absorbed New York socialite, or like maybe magazine designer. It's not quite clear what she is. Maybe they mention it, but it's not integral to the plot.
She doesn't really have very many redeemable qualities.
All you need to know is that she's vapid and selfish.
Yeah.
And he has to fly to Venezuela to divorce his wife, who is a doctor, who left him to go live with this indigenous tribe and provide medical care because that's the saint that she is.
How just generous of her, just how amazing that a white woman, went to Venezuela and did all that.
Brave.
That's what Kyle would say. Brave, by the way. So.
Wow.
Which, by the way, we need to pour one out for Kyle. He couldn't be here on this one today.
Way to bury the lead.
Yeah.
He left us to go to Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Or Venezuela.
Or Venezuela.
Yeah. Kyle's in Venezuela right now.
Helping pigs give birth, I think.
That's what he's doing.
I want to point out a fun little continuity error here. So he flew into Caracas, obviously. She didn't show. And then the lawyer was like, oh, she's in Lipo. Lipo's not in Venezuela. It's in French Guiana or Guinea. Am I saying that correctly?
Guyana.
Which is like 2 countries over from Venezuela. Because if you Google map Lipo, it's literally in French Guiana, not Venezuela. I think they tried to like sweep that under the rug, but I that was one thing that bothered me.
That was the town that the Disney.
Are we sure
executives
there's not
could
like
pronounce.
multiple Lipos?
There could be, but if you Google map it, it's in French Guiana.
What's
just
more,
a couple of countries away.
But what's more believable, that there's multiple, or Disney just said fuck it and just looked at a map?
I'm going to go with the latter. I'm going to go with the latter.
Yeah. Agreed.
World Travelers Disney's is. She's making it out to be his fault, which at first I'm like, yeah, okay, I can believe it. He was working all the time. That's what she said, but she didn't talk about it or try to get a divorce or do anything. She just left. And then on top of that, that's when she takes time to tell him that he has a 13-year-old son. And she's like, I started to write you letters, and I did. I was like, that's one thing you just have to kind of go through. I'm sorry. You have to pick up the phone and call somebody and let them know that they have a baby.
It's a very interesting narrative needle that they chose to thread, which is that, they retained her as an absolute saint to make sure that Tim Allen's character is the one that has to go on the journey to change and become a better man and a father.
Even though she just casually mentions to him that, oh, here's your son, by the way.
Yeah.
Which, disqualifies her sainthood, in my opinion.
And he's mad because, you didn't tell me in 13 years. And then she was like, well, it's not his fault. And it's like, what? Ma'am.
You know what's weird is that, I'll be honest, while watching it this time, I totally bought all of this. It did not register to me as, I was just like, well,
I understand what they're trying to set up, but I was just like, she's just as his fault as he is, and now you're both unlikable to me at this point. Even though she's
her more than him, honestly.
Doing more saintful things, but that's just just to hammer you over the head that this is a good character.
Yes,
but the dialogue wasn't written for a good character.
Yeah, well, her actions are not esteemable. No. At least in regards to her marriage.
Did anyone think she looked like Susan Sarandon? I thought it was Susan Sarandon as soon as she came on the screen. I was like, wait a second, is that her?
I believe the actress is John Pasquin's wife.
Is it?
Yeah, the director's wife.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
A little laugh out loud moment for me was when he first, came ashore. He had all his electronics out in his bag, and they were rifling through it. And then his razor was whirring in the sand on the beach, and he screams out, "This is a brawn!" Oh, I was like, oh, I didn't know it was that.
It'll rust.
Yeah. I wonder how much Braun paid for that.
Yeah, they had to have.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
After they kind of meet up and he learns he has a son, he's trying to trade the coffee stock at it's at an all-time high, I think 97.5 or something.
Like he bought it at 90 or 91.
And he's trying to get the satellite phone to work, and they
where's his service coming from exactly?
I have
especially in the
clue.
90s.
Yeah,
there's no Starlink. There isn't other things in that capacity back then.
He literally has a laptop on the beach, though.
I think it was sponsored by T-Mobile at the time.
Or Sprint.
Yeah, Sprint. And the service doesn't go through, so the shares are never sold, which is a big key point in the movie, meaning that it was probably Sprint that he didn't get service to send it through.
Zing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He doesn't know it. He thinks he's sold the options at an all-time high, but he has not confirmed with Martin Short to make the sale. So then he instead changes his focus where, don't even remember like sort of the weird movie logic that they used. I guess he thought that if basically his wife tells him like you need to have a relationship with your son now that you're here, and I guess he thinks that if he does that, then she's going to sign the divorce papers sooner. So he's trying to like butter her up by spending time with the son. So then he and the son go out on this like fishing day out on the Amazon or whatever jungle river, rainforest river that they're on.
Lizard guts were involved.
Yes, and this is when he begins to bond with Mimi Siku. And one of the worst jokes of this film, because he doesn't know that Mimi Siku can speak English. And they're on the river, and so he's trying to teach his son English. And Mimi Siku points to a passing parrot and says, like Moko or so. What do you guys remember the exact words?
It was something like that.
Moko, and he goes, "That's not Moko. That is bird. That's a bird. Bird." And then he goes, "Bird who don't sing, Moko Ono."
It was Hoko Ono.
Hoko Ono,
Because I wrote
okay.
that down. That was such an awful joke. But
Hoko Ono.
God.
Yeah, Yoko Ono taking strays from this fucking random.
She deserved it.
she does deserve it.
Oh
but, you know.
God! And didn't they like? And they say that Mimi Siku means cat piss.
Roughly translate to cat piss. Cat
Yes.
piss. Yes, that's
Yes.
what the
So
mom
what
said.
a way to take the air out of that character immediately.
I cackled at that because it came out of left field. Like, why would you throw that non sequitur in there? Like, what the hell? Who are you trying to reach with that?
They really fill it full of infantile jokes at the beginning of this movie.
That's Tim Allen core.
But
you know.
I'll be honest, as a kid, I loved it. I thought cat piss was so funny.
yeah.
And the fart jokes that come a little bit later, and Tim Allen's like, talk about your wind instruments. Like, I thought that was comedy gold.
Every Tim Allen movie has to have like a scene where there's just a bunch of farting. Like I don't. If you remember when we did the Santa Claus, I don't know if we touched on it, but
don't
when he
think
got
we
to the
did.
roof, there was just nothing but reindeer farts.
we
like
did talk
raining
about.
down.
We definitely talked about that. I think Comet. You know.
Yeah.
Past
I was
gas.
like,
or-
why?
Yeah.
And so it seems like they're bonding pretty well, him and Mimi Siku.
But he learns that Mimi Siku has a pet tarantula,
Yeah.
which will come into play
yeah.
throughout the film.
An
Many
aggressive
times.
pet tarantula, mind
Yes.
you.
Well, excitable.
It moves pretty damn fast though.
Yeah.
For a
with a wonderful tarantula prop, might I add. I
Yes.
feel like it is ridiculous, but
Yeah.
they have a robotic tarantula that runs across the sand.
looks
and
pretty good.
Looks pretty good, and it also does hiss, which tarantulas
what-
do.
A tarantula that hisses.
Hisses.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
It must
great
be a
sound
Venezuelan tarantula.
Yes.
Kyle did tell us that that's the one thing he hoped we mentioned is that
Tarantulas do not make noise.
they do not. If
No,
you
they don't
if
have
you're
vocal
confused
cords.
by that, so will we.
Yes.
Do they make any noise whatsoever? I
No.
don't think they do.
No.
That's not part of their, you know.
No, they don't have like lungs.
Yeah.
And they don't have like vocal cords. I mean, they have lungs, but they don't have like an airway to make noise.
God.
So yeah, no.
If I'm not mistaken, it hisses a lot in this
Oh,
movie
yes.
too. Like
Yeah.
it's
Anytime it, you
constant.
know, it comes in contact with someone other than Mimusiku, it lets it out.
There was
so.
one point where I thought it was the cat. And it was the tarantula that was hissing, like when they were in the same room together. I was like, "Why did the cat hiss?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck, we're there." So they get back to the village, and Mimi Siku makes a deal with Tim Allen that, "Hey, when I become a man, will you take me to see the Statue of Liberty?"
That's right.
I remember
A
that part.
Wakatepe.
Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, Wakatempe," and they do their little
They do a lot.
bond.
Yeah,
like,
they bro
handshake.
shake. They dap each other. Let's be honest. They dap each other over, and they call it a Wakatepe.
A gentleman's agreement.
Yes, and this is a promise that when he becomes a man, Tim Allen will take his son to see the Statue of Liberty.
And secure the fire.
Secure the fire.
Yes, that was part
Which
of the...
that came later though.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
he,
right.
he
Sorry.
doesn't, yeah, he doesn't reveal that
I'm
yet.
jumping the gun here because fast forward a bit, they have that little tribal initiation the following night where he becomes
Whoa!
a man.
Mimi Siku
Yeah.
pulled a fast one on his old man.
and the tribal chief requests him to go to New York City and bring back the fire from the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
What
How
do they,
fitting.
Why do they have fire? Part of the tribal ceremony is he has to put his hand over a burning ember.
Yeah.
So why do they need fire from?
I don't know. Disney wanted to throw that in there. They wanted to tie it
It's like
back.
Disney-
They had to get him into the other jungle somehow.
Can we infantilize this group of people anymore? They don't like they need fire from a statue.
I rolled my eyes so
Yeah.
hard at that scene.
Yeah.
I smiled.
I do. I
Filled
did.
me with joy and pride.
I did start laughing hysterically though when. So at the ceremony, we learned that Tim Allen well, he was like, I can't take you. I thought you when you were a man. And he's obviously referring to him being 18, 20, 21, whatever that may be. And his ex-wife starts freaking out. It's like, when you make a promise, you keep your promise.
Oh, that's rich.
You're being a little hypocritical, ma'am. Like you held on to this
That
secret.
woman is a saint. She helped a pig give birth. That was her save the cat moment.
Save the cat. What a great one.
Yeah, no, she definitely goes hard on him for promising Mimisiku that she was going to take him. I mean, honestly, listen, she's been a single mother for 13 years.
That's true. But she didn't probably have to be.
Yeah, that was by choice. So.
All she had to do was write one letter.
Oh, like he would have been present.
He would have sent money.
He would have supplied.
She is
money,
above money. Jesus Christ.
That hospital she could have bought and worked out of wouldn't have been above money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are really hating on. I don't even remember what her tribal name was.
Panaku or
Panaku, yeah. Or,
was it Panaku?
No,
Let's look it up.
Palu?
Paluki or something. I'm being insensitive myself here.
Yeah,
but,
no, keep trying. Keep trying.
No,
This definitely won't get into weird places.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
Just Dr. Patricia Cromwell is what her character name is listed. They don't have the indigenous name, so
He used the
Shucks.
full name instead of just Patricia. Doctor.
No, she's a doctor.
She is a doctor. I will give you that.
She's a doctor.
But
Okay, so hold on. While we're still in the setup, I do have to say one thing though in praise of this movie because there's a lot of things to make fun of.
of course.
yeah.
Okay, but the way they shot this whole sequence in Venezuela, I think on the whole it's shot really beautifully.
Yeah.
The cinematography is like, look, it's nothing like artistically groundbreaking, but it's really, really good, and it brings to light. We're so accustomed to CGI effects. We're so accustomed to CGI extras, and in this movie, like even when they're at this tribal village, it's like filled with extras in the background, like doing all sorts of stuff. And it really brought to light of like, okay, this movie's like objectively bad, yet it feels more expensive than almost anything that is made today. And it really brings to light just how CGI effects for how expensive that they make studio execs feel and how much these VFX studios are charging for them. They are almost always cheap. Yeah. And watching a film like this from the 90s, which had very, very minimal CGI effects, maybe just the fly and maybe just the shot of Mimisiku sitting on top of the Statue of Liberty. It just had such value. Like it felt nice. Yeah. It felt expensive.
So that was actually in my notes later down the road. It's so nice to watch these movies and see everything looks real. It feels like they're living in that world. We talk about it on this podcast a lot. I always hate on Marvel. And I don't hate on Marvel because they're bad films, but I hate on Marvel because they don't feel real.
Yeah.
And I can't invest in a character and I can't invest in what they're doing if I don't feel like they're doing it in a real environment. Like, why not just go play a video game or something at this point and get more mileage out of it? To your point, like the dialogue is pretty rough and the situations that they get into, you're kind of rolling your eyes the whole time, but it is so nice when we go back and visit these 90s movies and have something real and tangible that we can look at and feel.
Yeah.
Like even at its worst dialogue, I was still feeling something for the characters, even if like it was like off with the mom. I'm still able to feel something instead of nothing. you were all on her.
Dude, I thought she was great. What a woman. All the jokes aside, this movie is really like, it's looking good.
Yeah. The looks and the shots and even the locations are on point.
Yeah.
And even when we get to the New York setting, some beautiful shots there.
I always love 90s New York shots. I don't know.
Totally.
It brings you back.
Yeah, great shots of the Twin Towers. Whatever happened to those things?
Oh, God.
How many movies have we talked about this? How it's always like such a central focus of a pan or a transition.
Which speaking of transition, I think it's time to transition to that right now.
Yes. Okay.
Tim Allen, after this whole setup scene, he agrees to take Mimisiku to New York with him. It'll be a weekend or whatever, and I'll send him back, and she'll sign the divorce papers to the logic you were talking about earlier. And then they get on a plane, and somehow he's able to take a spear and a bow on a plane. And I was like, man, this really is pre 9/11.
I was going to say pre 9/11, buddy. We're 97 here.
I
So.
know. But I don't even think in pre 9/11 you could just take on a bunch of weaponry.
Well, I actually will attest. I was traveling with my mom. I must have been about 5 or 6 years old, so this would have been like 95. And I had a cap gun in my bag.
Jesus.
And it was a multi-leg flight. And it took until the final flight when a security guard finally was like, hey, you can't bring this through. But that means I made it through 2 different airports with like a revolver-shaped cap gun in my bag before anyone said anything.
Well, the funny part about this is Mimi Siku's holding the spear, like just out in the open, and it's
like
just
his
a
teddy bear.
Yeah, it's like he's like, and then he has the bow around his neck, and he's wearing his loincloth. They never, so he's just like, there's nowhere to cover it, and he's got all the poison tree dart rods, like,
And then he takes a piss, like in front of the bathroom, like near the exit sign, just like on the floor. And the flight attendant comes to Tim Allen and is like, hey, your son's peeing on the exit sign. Can you get him wrangled? And it's just like, what the hell?
you can't even take shampoo on a flight now. So like,
yeah. But how about those seats, though?
Oh, they were
my
nice.
God.
Yeah.
They were nice.
They were big.
Yeah.
Big seats.
yeah,
a lot
that
of
must be the
space.
Spirit flight, like the upgrade, right?
Yeah.
It looked above coach back where they were sitting.
I'd kill for those seats right now.
Oh, yeah. Take me back.
Yeah.
Take me back. When I could bring my spear and I could sit in a goddamn chair.
I gotta hold
throne.
hold somebody captive with a cap gun and piss on the exit row. God, we head back to New York, right? We're in New York now, so now everything's kind of settling into its plot. We know why Mimi Siku's there.
Also,
Rendezvoused with him.
great line on the transition. They're going across the Brooklyn Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge. I can't remember which one. I think Manhattan Bridge, actually. Going across the Manhattan Bridge, and Mimi Siku, they're in the cab riding in, and Mimi Siku looks over to his dad and he says, "This your village, Baboon?" Oh, because
Yes.
also Tim Allen is named Baboon at
Yes.
this point by Mimi Siku.
Yeah.
And he says, "This your village, Baboon?" It's big. And he smiles as this helicopter orbit shot with a little bit of dolly zoom effect in it. It's absolutely gorgeous as they like go into Manhattan.
Yeah.
Looks great. And I do also just want to give a shout out for like these lines like that are so bad. Sam Huntington, who plays Mimi Siku, God, what a horrible role to book as your like feature film
He
debut.
did the best he could with that.
He does. I think he
Yeah.
does a great job.
I thought
it is
that-
such an unforgivable and like horrible card to be dealt as an actor, and he does a great job. He's still working to this day. Shout out to Sam Huntington.
I thought he killed it too. I thought he did a good job with the hand he is dealt. It is not
man.
like
terrible dialogue and an embarrassing costume.
Right.
And he just nails it.
Yeah.
Scene after scene.
And I do want to go back because we're talking about shots now. Does anybody remember the snake kill back in the jungle?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it just went slow motion all of a sudden, and it's like I felt like I was getting glaucoma. What an odd choice to go because there's no other shot like that in the film.
No.
But flashing forward, and now while they're back in New York, Tim Allen figures out that they didn't sell the coffee. So they missed out on a ton of money, and now coffee is falling.
Falling multiple dollars.
Yeah.
And,
And
he looks
falling
like an
fast.
idiot.
Yeah.
And now his company's mad, and they're trying to figure out, like, hey, why'd you tie up so much money in coffee? Coffee's tanking, all that good stuff. And then I'm trying to remember what happened next in that scene.
I think don't they bring Mimi Siku into the office at that point? Don't they go like straight in or something like that?
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I've got to fight my chief, my whatever.
His boss. His
it's-
dickhead boss.
Yeah, because the tarantula comes into the room and
Mimi Siku tries to kill him with the tarantula,
Yes.
which he also brought onto the flight.
Oh, yeah.
in a wicker basket, like not even like locked.
with no hinges on it at all.
Yeah.
Like it could pop open at any moment. This deadly tarantula, and so like he sends the tarantula in. Tim Allen's like trying to like maneuver around, and he's screaming like a madman to get his bosses to look anywhere but down on the floor where the tarantula is.
Yeah. That's just
And then he's
ridiculous.
like, no, we can't kill boss. Like, which and now in today's society, I'm like, yeah, kill boss. Like, I mean,
Who the fuck cares?
yeah.
No empathy there.
And then I think that's where Mimi Siku meets his, I guess, current wife now?
Yes,
Or
there is-
future.
Yes.
He's in between marriages.
There's a lovely transition scene from the office to the apartment complex. It's just, some casual shots of some of the nicer buildings and, downtown Manhattan, the financial district. But in the background is the Mexican hat dance song that is playing. And I was just kind of floored at that choice of audio.
Such a weird musical transition that, like, because it comes off a one-liner. I don't even remember what the one-liner was. And then all of a sudden you get, and it's supposed to like punctuate the joke and like somehow like tie into like Mimi Siku like being from like South America.
Yeah.
It's like totally bizarre and ham-fisted.
I get that Mexico is Latin America, but like he's from a indigenous tribe of people. They don't know what the fuck the hat dance is.
Not according to Disney.
So weird.
It made me laugh in a somewhat of a dark place, but like I laughed, not with them, but at them. So
I mean, as an extra layer of darkness, I think this is also the transition that reveals that their office is in fact in the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Yes.
Their office is in one of the Twin Towers. Hence why there was no sequel, because Tim Allen and Martin.
Too soon.
Sorry.
Never too soon. Come on. Safe place here.
God. And then his house, right? Like his apartment.
Yeah, he's got a baller apartment.
Yeah, it's like in right above Central Park.
Yeah, looking over the park.
It's a lovely penthouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Very, very expensive, but I'm sure he makes good money, as does his girlfriend partner.
I think she's a bit more of a hangers-on.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably. But there is a lot of money in fashion, especially in New York, so you never know. But I agree with you.
they're filming a documentary on her.
Yeah.
At the same time. So
Yeah, she's kind of like one of these socialites. So like as she's preparing, so she's incentivized that this wedding between her and Tim Allen like really needs to go according to schedule, because she has booked a documentary crew to document all of the fashion choices of her wedding.
Yeah.
So that's very important to her, and she has these other sort of vapid fashion characters following her around with a camera.
It was so
Yeah.
stereotypical and just stupid and cartoonish, but
It's cartoonishly gay is
Yeah.
what it was.
Yes.
Yes, so some cartoonish gayness in a 90s Disney film.
and then she meets Mimi Siku, and she's not a fan.
she's there's no empathy whatsoever. Like Tim
fun-
Allen is like, I have a son, and she's like, what the fuck? You have a son? That's inexcusable.
Which also, I'm like, he's getting it from two different women at this point. Not only in one jungle, but he goes to another jungle, and now his, I guess, fiance at the time is like, if I had a child, I would have known about it.
Yeah, the female representation, let's just say it doesn't get out of two dimensions
It does not
in this
pass.
film.
It does not pass the Bechtel test.
No,
we can go ahead
no,
and
no,
throw
no.
that out there. So anybody
Certainly
that's
not.
wondering.
Yeah, basically in the world of Jungle to Jungle, they're either saints or they're something else. So it's terrible.
Yeah.
Sociopaths, kind of ish.
I think just more it's just like, oh, she's a bitch. Like that's essentially how you could sum up his fiance's character.
She does seem sociopathic though. Like she's very much like in tune with herself and only herself, and does not give a fuck.
They make her dumb too.
They do.
Like so
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah.
Like,
Again, playing into the stereotypes, which you'd expect.
yeah. Now we kind of get kind of like a modge podge of stuff happening, right? Like we got Tim Allen trying to figure out the stocks, and also trying to teach Mimi Siku how to not be a villager. Like he's trying.
Mimi Siku's crawling outside of buildings and
On the ledge of the
on
top
the
floor.
ledge and doing all this kind of crazy stuff, and so that's going on. But then Martin Short comes up with this crazy plan for them to get their coffee money back by basically laundering the. So
Stocks to
he's going to sell the stocks to a Russian mafia man posing as like a fishmonger,
a caviar salesman.
a caviar salesman, and they're going to basically launder his dirty Russian mafia money by selling him these coffee options.
At only $5 under. At only $5 under per share. So like it's a win for them.
And they're just trying to capitalize on it. And they go to this meeting, and Tim Allen was like, "Okay, no, we're not selling them. We're not selling them," because he still thinks the coffee stocks are going to hit and go back up, and he's very confident about that. And what we learn in the movie, the one thing he's really good at is stocks and understanding the balances and when to sell.
Which that's his job.
It's his job.
Should be.
And one of my favorite parts in the movie is when they go meet what's his name. Javonsky or something like that.
Jovanovich,
Mr. J, which he didn't like to be called. He had like a 5-part name.
Yeah, I tried to give him a Midwestern name, but he He shows up and they're sitting there talking to him, and he makes them eat fresh caviar from the fish, which I'm not even sure. Like,
You should do that. Don't you have to clean it? and
Well, it's like
whatnot?
it's a parallel to Mimisiku doing the lizard guts thing.
yes.
Like, so like Tim Allen refused to eat the lizard guts from his son, who swears that they're good, but then he's willing to eat the caviar from this mafia guy because he's afraid of him. I will say though that I think that little moment is one of the best moments of like dual physical comedy from
Yeah.
Tim Allen
Yeah.
and Martin Short, as they both grab this caviar out of this Russian guy's hand and eat it and put it in their mouth.
I will say the comedy that came from Martin Short in this movie, he had several one-liners that actually made me laugh.
Yeah.
I thought Martin
a funny
Short,
guy,
he can just be in
so-
anything and make it work.
Martin Short is like the Harry Dean Stanton of comedies, you know?
Oh my God, it's so true.
Some of it was
that-
a little slapsticky. Some of his physical comedy towards the end was just like, all right, what are we doing here? But
Yeah,
he had
and-
some one-liners that were,
And he does, and the button of so many scenes of just him screaming at the top of his
Yes.
lungs. It's a little absurd. But
his petrified face later too, where he's like holding on to the to the stocks. But so they sell the stocks at and get their money back, or get some money back. I don't think they got all their money back, but they basically cut their losses on that. So they sell the stocks, and he goes back, and doesn't Tim Allen, like, he's like, oh, I gotta spend more time with my fiance. He has this like
He does, but
revelation.
he also has some moments with Mimisiku where he's just kind of like showing him the city, right? And
Yeah.
there's some trials and tribulations, because I think like the previous night the girlfriend had like fashion friends over, and they catch him eating cat food in like the kitchen or
he
something
keeps
like
wanting
that.
to kill the cat.
Yes, he wants to kill the
Yeah,
cat
he
and
wants
eat
to
it,
eat-
and then
yeah,
he
eat
sleeps
cat.
out in like the veranda, the porch outside overlooking Central Park, and he wakes up and he kills a pigeon like in the level below as a woman's like feeding it,
and he ties it to his belt.
Yes,
and he's
and, like,
walking
walks
around
through
New
the
York
city.
which
and he gives it to a homeless man to eat. The homeless man is like begging for food, and he goes, "Here's food." And he gives him the dead pigeon.
I will say one thing that makes sense when he's walking through the city by himself. Like, I believe that, because you could see that in New
It's
York.
New York,
Some
yeah.
random kid just dressed as like a tribes person.
Oh, I will say, like,
you wouldn't question it.
all those like sort of like fish out of water type moments to me as a little kid, magic,
Yeah. Yeah.
cinema gold.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
him killing the pigeon. I just remember watching that as a little kid and being like, oh God, I would love to fucking kill a pigeon with a bow and arrow in some lady's apartment.
Pigeons are so fucking annoying too. So
Oh, hey, actually, I've come really around on pigeons.
They're smart.
I'm a big pigeon proponent. I'm serious.
they are smart.
Hold on, I have to say this.
Yeah.
Pigeons are critical to the scope of human history. Pigeons are amazing. It was the fastest way for humans to communicate for thousands of
Yes.
years. We had a symbiotic relationship with pigeons, and we have cast them to the gutter. It is totally unfair to the pigeon. We have turned pigeons, into this bird, and they live in our cities now, and now we look down upon them, but we actually owe them a great debt of gratitude, and I'm just very pro-pigeon, so I just had to put that on the record.
you heard it right here. If you're pro pigeon, we're pro pigeon. Right
Let
here
us
on
know.
Hold Up. Yeah.
I don't hate pigeons. I just, when you live in New York and you see them all the time, they get annoying. They're like the rats of the sky, but they're still on the ground. You know.
See, but this is the kind of anti-pigeon stigma that
I
we
know,
we
but
need
they're
to fight
very
against.
intelligent. Apparently, like very intelligent.
Well,
And-
they have this incredible ability to home
Yeah.
that humans utilize throughout history.
Yeah.
As magical. Mike Tyson loves them. So
I mean, the little nugget you brought us is lost upon us as
Yeah,
humans.
it's not lost
but-
upon me. I gathered it. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
lost upon
Did
you,
you?
but I also did.
I'm
Did you?
so sorry.
No,
I'm not on your level.
I'm gonna go home, or I'm gonna go buy a pigeon from Petco and tonight, or maybe
Oh,
grab
please,
one off
get
the
a
street.
rescue
Yeah.
I'm sure
pigeon.
Blair will love that.
get
Yeah,
a
so-
rescue pigeon, you fucking crap.
Have a heart.
Well, I
Chase.
do have
God,
some
these
money.
pigeon mills are just churning out pigeons left and right.
Like a golden coat pigeon. I would love that. Like, or maybe like a mixed breed pigeon.
Yeah, get a
Something.
mutt.
Yeah, something with a raven in it.
Raven pigeon mixture.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Jesus.
And I think we get like a good line of dialogue. And I actually really like this scene, but while he's trying to teach Mimisiku runs off because he's like, I gotta go to the Statue of Liberty, I gotta get fire. He ends up climbing the Statue of Liberty, finding out.
Well, hold on. Yes, sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off, but we can't miss this incredible montage of Mimi Siku when he runs away from Tim Allen and he has his day alone in the city.
Yes.
Which is set
Yes.
to Peter Gabriel
Rules.
and Shaggy.
Yes. What a mashup too.
Was that song written for this movie? Because I tried to like Shazam it, and it did not identify it whatsoever, and I was very confused as to why. Because I recognized both their voices.
I had to double check. Like I just looked it up. It was like Jungle to Jungle soundtrack and saw Peter Gabriel and Shaggy.
Bravo.
Like, my God.
It
Crossover we didn't know we needed.
but it was such a great song at the same time.
It was.
Like,
It's pretty fire.
I was
great,
feeling it.
and it's a great New York montage too.
Yeah, it's and you know him walking around with his bow too at the same time.
It's so absurd, and yet it really works.
It was the precursor to Phil Collins and Tarzan soundtrack.
We don't get Phil Collins Tarzan without this.
You
let's
heard it here
honest.
Mimi Siku and Peter Gabriel walked so Phil Collins and Tarzan could fly.
Oh God! But and then at the end of that montage is where he goes to the Statue of Liberty. He sees that there's no flame there. He's disappointed, and the police have to get him down.
Yes.
So the police call Tim Allen. He's freaking out, and he's like, "Come get your son," and they just let him go. And then there are no questions asked, no DHR coming in, no child protective services, anything like that.
And we wonder how 9/11 happened.
Jesus Christ.
And then we get to the point where they have this like back and forth dialogue where earlier Mimi Siku was like, "Why do you have to go to work?" And he's like, "I'm obligated." And he's like, "What does obligated mean?" He's like, "I got to do something I don't want to." And then
It's a very important line.
it's a very important
Very
line because
important.
at the end of this, he's frustrated, obviously, because he cannot leave Mimi Siku alone. Mimi Siku's like, this is his jungle. He's exploring.
He's left
And then
him
he
alone how many
says-
times at this point? Though?
And he's like, "You said we were going to go. Why didn't we go?" And he's like, I had to do this and then the other. So why'd you bring me here then? And he was like, "I was obligated." And Mimi Siku puts two and two together that like, "Oh, I remember what you said earlier." And it's actually good line of work
not bad.
dialogue. Yeah, it's like I think they used all their eggs in that one basket. But it's a good like character work here because now Mimi Siku's like, "Oh, I'm a burden to you."
Yeah.
And he starts trying to run away. And Tim Allen basically is, "Okay, if you're going to live in my jungle, I've got to teach you how to live in my jungle." And this is kind of where they start to bond because now it's more of not an obligation, but like as an understanding.
Yeah.
And then they start kind of
they go to Nautica.
They go to Nautica.
They
Yeah.
get some nice clothes.
Yeah, they go to
Gotta
Nautica.
go to Nautica, man.
He had a cool sweater. I mean, like
was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, get some big
Yeah.
cord sweaters
Yeah.
and like some oversized like Jinko jeans.
Some like knockoff like Nike like tennis shoes.
Yeah.
And they go to Central Park, don't they? Or
They
something like
do.
that?
And while they're doing this, like we skipped over this scene because I didn't really think it was important, but it is funny to mention. But when Mimi Siku left to do his day in New York with Peter Gabriel and Shaggy, his spider got out and trapped Tim
kept
Allen's
it
fiance in
the bathroom all day.
for like a 16-hour
All
period. And then they get back from their spree, and he's got all the like his like bags and stuff in his new clothes. He's like, and then he's like, his fiance's just screaming in the bathroom. He has to go let her out. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine your wife having
She's
a spider
inept.
like?
She can't do shit, man. Like, come on.
Yeah,
You can sidestep a tarantula. And then, like, I remember.
Well, not one that hisses.
No, not the one that hisses.
Oh
You're
my
right.
god,
Yeah,
no! It's like
those
a
are-
hissing cock
scary.
tarantula.
I want to ask you all. You remember the scene in Central Park when they find that random band that's playing very eclectic music?
Yes.
And the scene around it is incredibly eclectic as well. You've got like Arab men and women, Hasidic Jews, black, white, all over the spectrum, just dancing and having a good time. And like, yes, New York is like the most eclectic city in this country, but like that collection right there was just, it was a little cartoonish for me.
It is such a 90s vision of diversity where
Yes.
it's basically like the I'd like to buy the world of Coke commercial, like distilled into its heroin purity and injected into the midpoint of this film that of like, we could all just be together. Like dancing to this tribal fusion band, which is like also the epitome of sort of 90s tribal musical fusion. It is so surreal, and what a time capsule.
I rolled my eyes so hard at that shit. The old man in me was like, this is fucking stupid. Get this off.
It is fucking stupid.
It is. Cringy. Cringy.
While you were drinking your Weller and smoking a cigar.
Exactly.
You were mad about that?
Yep.
Oh, my God.
One scene that I want to mention.
Yeah.
I got a laugh out of it. Well, I think it was that morning. He gives some Captain Crunch, remember?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And, like, there's a lot of bad parenting in this. Like, you have a kid who has been in the jungle all his life, but, like, there's no guidance until he gets commandeered by the police. But he doesn't give him a bowl, doesn't give him spoons. He doesn't know what any of this shit is. And he pours the milk and the Captain Crunch out on the counter. And
I've got to argue that because he knows what a pot is.
yeah, I just...
we glossed over that one, too. He doesn't know what a bowl and a fucking spoon is, but he knows what a pot is, and he uses it to, like... What did the tribe do? If a young man can gift a woman a pot? Which he
That's
did.
like a mating, like,
he
ritual
did
or
back in the
something?
jungle.
Yeah, yeah.
Where the fuck did he get the original pot?
They're in the Iron Age, like the...
No one else had it. I guess they all gave him away.
I think they have pots. They had pots on the river. Yeah, they had pots.
But there was also another line that it was corny and stupid, but I chuckled at it. Tim Allen just reads off the ingredients of the Captain Crunch box, like corn, brown sugar, yellow 5, zinc oxide. Oh, they're putting sunblock in it now. It was so fucking dumb.
Yes.
But I laughed. I laughed from a point of, what's the word I'm looking for? Again, I wasn't laughing with them. I was laughing.
You were laughing at them.
But I thought it was wholesome and stupid, and I appreciated it.
There's another funny scene that I want to mention too that's not really trivial to the plot or anything. But do you notice, like, when you watch, I don't know how many of these movies you watch on, like, in your spare time, but
every week.
Yeah, every week. We were watching, like, the Santa Claus and Jingle All the Way. There's always, like, a really adult, like, joke. It's not, like, sexual or anything, but it's just like you put it in there for the adults.
Yeah.
The one that I picked out here was the one guy that had the 3 fingers.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever happened to his other 2 fingers? You know what I'm talking about? So
Yes.
they go into the market.
It was
and
the
he's like,
mafia, like, doorman or whatever.
Yeah, the guy who's like progressively getting more and more injured off screen because the mafia boss keeps abusing him.
They were like, he was like, what you got to do is you got to, like, knock twice.
Ring once, knock twice, ring 3 times. Which they couldn't fucking commit to memory.
No.
And then, like, he holds his finger up for the 3 times.
Yeah.
And they're like, what happened to his other 2 fingers? He's like, well, he rang 4 times. Or he didn't knock twice or something like that. I can't even remember what the line was, but I thought that was hysterical because it was, and it brought me back to some of those other characters we were talking about. They get maimed in all these other movies, like the firefighter and the Santa Claus. But I don't even know where we're at right now. We're all over the place.
I mean,
we're past the midpoint. The other thing that we've neglected to mention is that Mimi Siku has had his meet cute with his love interest, Martin Short's daughter.
Is her name Jane? Is that what it was?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, they fell in love at first sight, man.
Yeah, it was a sweet meet cute. She was getting fitted for her dress for Tim Allen's wedding.
He's 13, she's 12. Just
sparks flew.
Which,
Just
I mean,
met.
we're kind of there now because, like, yeah, he met her earlier, but now, so Tim Allen's going to try to repair some damage with his fiance. So he sends Mimi Siku to stay with Martin Short,
Right.
Who he
has like a house out in Westchester. He's got a house in the
out in the country, as they say, which is there's no country really around New York City.
It's either it's in Connecticut or some.
And we meet the actual saint of this movie, the Martin Short's wife.
Yes.
Who is, like, very understanding. This kid doesn't really understand the rules and regulations of living in New York, so she's trying to teach him and being very gentle with her parenting, which actually goes a long way. And I was like, oh,
speaks very loudly to him on when she meets him.
She does play like awkward white lady, but her heart is in a good place. Yeah.
She's the only one using some common sense here.
Yes.
That, like, you can't just, like, let this kid do whatever he wants because he's used to just doing whatever he wants.
Exactly.
And Martin Short has gone behind Tim Allen's back and sold the coffee shares because they kept falling to the Russians.
Now he's now
recouped them.
He's bought them back out of fear that because the price has now fallen below $75
that they're going to get off or something.
That the Russians are going to kill him. So now he's bought the futures back.
Which a mafia man wouldn't allow just to resell. He would squeeze the shit out of them because it was like $1 million. It'd be like $1 million and like 25% or something like that. But
right, because at first
spend it all.
Martin Short went and sold the shares first behind his back, and then now they've gone and recouped the shares,
and he has the certificates back. He got rid of the case of $1 million or whatever.
And the Russian is like, how do I know that you're not swindling me? And he's like, no, we're not swindling you, because they don't know. They're just trying to get the shares back because Tim Allen knows eventually they will hit.
Yeah,
he doesn't know it's going to be 24 hours later. And then
I think what we could really call this is Act 2 padding.
Yeah.
This is Act 2 padding.
This is the top of Act 3
we
padding.
we gotta stretch this. We gotta keep this string going.
We're getting there, but not quite.
Yeah, it gets really confusing there for a second. But and now they've bought him back, and Mimi Siku's living at their place for a little bit, and this is where he's really smitting with his
Jane or whatever.
Yeah, Jane.
Martin Short's daughter. He gives her a tribal name and everything, and
he paints her face,
and they kiss in the starlit fields,
which is what I really needed in my movie, was a 13-year-old and a 12-year-old making out.
Like, we want to see that love for sure. Before that, I believe. This is just a small scene. The mom gives him like a frozen like fish plank or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And he takes a bite out of it. And she's like, "Oh, you silly boy, it's not cooked yet." And he's like, "Oh, hey, come out here. I'm going to show you some real fish." And it turns out he has killed and cooked Martin Short's like exotic like fish tank collection.
Yeah, his cichlids.
Yeah, cichlids. Kills them all, roasts them on a plank.
Which are from the Amazon, so like that's how Mimi Siku knew.
Actually, the fish that are actually in the tank are African cichlids.
Yeah. Continuity error there.
Although cichlids live in both Africa and South America, my dad had aquariums growing up. So
Disney, you bastard.
I was going to ask, are you like the foremost like expert on cichlids here?
No.
Of the three of us, maybe.
Of the three,
absolutely.
Yes.
Like you knew what they were.
But anyways, maybe Siku has really left his mark on the family, and it's just
he's trying to leave his mark on the daughter.
Whoa. Okay, can we talk about this for a second? Because let's get the obvious out of the way. The whole concept of like having a 12-year-old actor, 13-year-old actor kiss like on set like for this movie that's like for family friendly audiences like is inherently cringy. However, like to deny that those types of feelings between and it's like it's all very innocent. I mean, it's like it's sweet little kid love kind of story.
And when we're younger, we're not going to think much on it. It plays with our heartstrings.
I mean, you are having those feelings like at the time. It's just the actual like practice of going about it and shooting it in a movie is rather distasteful.
Yeah. I mean, and this I'd watch 10 times over than Blank Check, where we're watching a 40-year-old.
Well, that's
So that this was a palate cleanser compared to that.
God,
maybe if we started here, we would have felt. But like I'm with you. It felt weird, but it didn't feel like malicious or anything.
Cringy, if you want to put a word on it.
Cringy, but not unrealistic, at least within the circumstances of the story. And both actors, are very good.
Because the girl that plays, I guess we're saying Jane is her name, but because she was in Joyride too, and I think she was in. She was in something else. I looked it up last night. I should have made a note, but she has kind of had a pretty solid career since this movie. So, this kicked it off, and this was her film debut too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. She does great.
Yeah. Fun fact for everybody. But Martin Short finds that out now, and
he catches them sleeping in the hammock
and
together.
He's pissed.
Oh, he freaks out.
Premarital sex or anything of that matter. I mean, it is just 12-year-old daughter, so it is kind of weird.
And to be fair, if you're Martin Short and your 12-year-old daughter is like getting close with, Mimi Siku, who is just.
It's loose cannon.
I guess we call him unrefined.
Very.
Yeah,
he's
it's
raw.
like, and you come from.
He's a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
Work in progress.
Oh God, we're gonna need him on Trading Spaces. But you understand where the dad's coming from. This is his 12-year-old girl, so like he's freaking out a little bit, but he's not like.
Yeah, but he's doing this very stereotypical dad thing. It's the wife who's like, "All right, calm down." Like they're not like the wife is very level-headed about all this. She's basically like, "Listen, like this is like very innocent. Like they're not having sex here. Like they've curled up in a hammock together. Like it's very innocent and sweet. You need to chill."
Which I'm back to that wife is very, like a lot of common sense coming out of her, like the whole way through. So
yeah, for sure. I can't remember the actress's name, but she plays George's pretentious girlfriend on Seinfeld, the one who wears the chopsticks in her hair and then has a nervous breakdown.
Oh yeah,
yeah, she's fabulous.
Great show. So at this time too, so he's kicking Mimi Siku out and kicking his own daughter out too, sending her to camp, I guess.
Yeah.
And then
gonna put her in a convent.
Yeah.
Also, I loved her little brother Andrew.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah, he
So
actually
many
had the
great-
best lines.
He did.
He crushed it.
We're gonna smoke her out. Let's go.
And then Tim Allen comes in to help out because he's trying to grab Mimi Siku. And one of my favorite Martin Short lines in this is like they're trying to ram the door down where his daughter is like locked it, and they both go flying out the door, out the window, and over like man, he's Martin Short. Like that fall looked like it hurt.
Oh yeah, it's a classic kind of '90s physical gag where they run over a banister, fall 2 stories onto a table,
land completely on their back and shoulders.
Yeah,
and then Martin Short gets up and his daughter, like I think it was his daughter. She was like, "Oh, Dad, are you okay? You okay?" And he's like, "Yeah. Let me lean on you though a little bit." And he starts leaning on her, and I that got me. I thought that was so funny.
It was funny. I just some of that slapstick physical humor just again made me roll my eyes. It was just dumb.
The physical humor I can do without, but like the one-liners that come out of that were kind of funny.
But it wouldn't be the same without that stupid physical humor. So
yeah, you give and take.
Now at this point, coffee has gone back
up to like 97 or something like that.
They're over 97.
Yeah.
So now these shares are something worth. So now the Russian thinks that by buying back the shares,
they were swindling him.
They've
the whole
screwed
time.
him. Yeah. So now the Russian is going to show back up to their house. And this is and then like they know he's coming and they're like trying to rush out the door, but he catches them just in the nick of time.
The Russian mob just happens to know where Martin Short lives up in Connecticut or Westchester or wherever the fuck it is. They put it in their GPS. It doesn't exist, and they know how to get there right on cue.
Right.
So. Oh God! What a scene! What a scene that ensues!
Yeah. And here we are at our climax.
Yeah, and then this whole brawl breaks out where it's like, and we forgot to mention because I think we're at that point where we need to mention it. Tim Allen has this fascination with trying to use Mimi Siku's like blow dart gun.
Yeah, where the fuck is up with that?
Yeah.
Why is he obsessed with Mimi Siku's dart gun?
He shot himself in the foot early and put himself asleep because this dart gun works like that.
Yes,
he got his wife.
Yeah, and then he shot
the cat.
Yes,
and then was like throwing it around and like violently shaking it out. I was like, I know the cat's asleep. Just put it down somewhere.
That was another scene that I remember from my childhood thinking was hilarious.
Yeah.
Him knocking the cat, drugging the cat with a dart gun, and then trying to make the cat pretend like it was like high energy for his fiance.
And his fiance was like, "I'm glad you and Coco are finally getting along." And he's like, "Oh yeah, go get it." And he like threw it he threw it under the table.
And every time he throws the cat, they have this wonderful like heavy thud sound effect of just the limp cat body hitting the ground. Hilarious.
that was a great like stuffed animal they used there too.
Yeah.
Looked very real.
Yeah.
And so it all comes back full circle because Tim Allen keeps trying to use this dart gun, and now he's trying to use it in this battle, which Mimi Siku is like holding his own, like taking out multiple people.
He took the tarantula, threw it over like the banister on the lead mafia
like
guy's
a fucking
back.
like ninja star.
Yes. And it works. It freaks the dude out. And that's what it pretty much starts the whole storm of violence and
the fracas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So now it's like this family of 2 young children, Mimi Siku, Martin Short, his wife, and Tim Allen versus three mafia, large mafia
Which
guys.
75% of this was done without Martin Short's wife because Tim Allen knocks her unconscious.
Well, they all go unconscious too because Andrew pricks himself as well and he passes out. So the Kempters, they're all passed out, and it's just Mimi Siku and Tim Allen taking on these 3 mafia chieftains.
And there's a gun
henchmen.
on the floor being kicked around.
There's
of
a
course.
knife, a big old blade.
Well, why use the gun when you can use a blow dart?
So ridiculous.
And then Mimi Siku uses like the touch of death to like
Oh,
put
yeah.
people unconscious.
Oh yeah! All of a sudden, Mimi Siku knows how to get your ventricle artery to pass out.
And so he gives like somebody like 3 people strokes and then they go down. And I think it finally ends up with Mimi Siku and Tim Allen versus like, and it wasn't the main boss, but
It was his
like
henchman,
Yeah,
his
henchman.
right hand dude, and they win the battle. I
can't even
guess.
remember how they win it.
The main dude was really afraid of that tarantula.
Yeah, it's the tarantula. Yeah,
Yeah.
the tarantula wins the day.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the mafia guys get in their car, and he just goes, "Get me away from that spider!"
Yes.
Which in this point they're in the car, the family's standing in front of the car, and like Mimi Siku's like holding the
holding
train. So at this point, just plow over them in the car. It's what is it, like an old a Chevelle? That thing's built like a tank. It could have killed the whole family.
There's no reason those mafiosos shouldn't have taken out that entire group of people. Like, there's no reason.
No. This is some real Disney logic, but
Yeah.
like it's childhood fantasy. Like,
Of course.
wouldn't you love to imagine your
Absolutely.
dad and you with a spider in your hand,
For sure.
defeating some ridiculous Russian stereotypes?
Oh god, and that kind of wraps up that big climax of the scene because now we get
We're
like
at the end, pretty much.
Yeah, now Mimi Siku's kind of like feeling homesick.
He wants to go back.
Yeah, he wants to go back.
He's seen the other jungle, and he wants to go to his home.
Right, and I think he's like, I couldn't find fire from the Statue of Liberty. He's like, Tim Allen's like, the fire's within, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, here comes some good, and then they just dump it. Like they don't even like go further into it. Mimi Siku's like, no, I want to go home.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you.
And then Tim Allen's like, "Here's a lighter."
Yeah. So they get, which is great.
A
'cause they
nice
get,
Statue of Liberty lighter.
Yeah.
And would that be allowed on a fight?
So
That was
1997, it would.
I wasn't sure. Was it pre 9/11 enough that they wouldn't allow him to bring that on? Because I don't know.
What's the issue? What's he gonna do?
I guess people smoked on airplanes back then too. So
No, not 97.
no,
Are you
yeah,
sure?
no. That's when, like in the like the 80s is
I
when
could
they
have
stopped
sworn
smoking.
it went
no.
into the 90s. I believe.
And like to tell people at home, like, yeah, they get to the point where Mimi Siku he's about to fly out, and Tim Allen's like, okay, you're gonna go home now, and he's still got his bow and his spear and his tarantula. He's got all of his shit. They're just gonna get back on the flight with all. And then he
Sorry, fun little fact for you. I want to go into this smoking.
Is this
ban
the
real quickly.
smoking? Yeah.
Yes. 1988, smoking was banned on domestic flights of less than 2 hours. 1990, smoking was banned on domestic flights of less than 6 hours and on the cabin and passengers of all flights, but not the flight deck. 2000 was when smoking was officially banned on all domestic and international flights. So it could have been around. It's just
we're pushing it there.
I had to hang on to that one for a second.
So he hands Mimi, like, he's like, here's a Statue of Liberty lighter, and he flicks it up, and there's light from the Statue of Liberty.
Kinda
and
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's cute.
Yeah, it's touching.
and
I
he gives him a
guess.
satellite phone
And
or
he
whatever.
gives him some Camel Blues, and he's like,
American spirits, bro.
Sends him on his way.
Tribal.
Yes.
And then we get the turn here because Tim Allen goes back home and realizes that his fiance is a bitch.
She sucks. There's nothing worthwhile there.
Yeah, he's hated her this whole time. Mimi Siku tells him that he has to kill a fly
Yeah.
with the dart gun in order to become a part of the tribe. So Tim Allen keeps practicing his dart gun. He practices it in the stock exchange, which coincidentally he kills the fly, but in the process he also knocks his boss out.
He was talking shit about him, if you remember.
Yes, he was. Yeah. It's just ridiculous.
Whatever.
And then so he calls him saying, "Hey, I killed a fly," and he's like, "Oh no, I don't like." He's like, "I believe you. Like, how'd you do it or whatever?
When are you going to show me?
When are you going to show me?" And he's like,
Right now.
How about now?
And he's still wearing a suit. Like he knew he was going to this island. He's
Suit
still
and
wearing
suspenders.
a suit.
Yes.
Yeah. And shows him the fly. and I think Mimisiku makes a comment about Jane. He's like, "Oh, why don't you ask her yourself?" And then here comes Martin Short and his family.
Yeah, he's dragged the whole family down.
Hipsters are coming down to Venezuela.
Yeah, like what a vacation.
Andrew, Jan, his wife, the whole gang. Why? And why would they want to go live there?
Because we need a shot of Mimisiku and his 12-year-old child bride running into the water.
Who jumps out of the boats and swims like a quarter mile
It's like
to
you
the shore.
You could have just waited another.
Even though we've established that these waters are full of piranha, by the way.
And crocodiles.
And crocodiles.
Or alligators. Probably crocodiles. Or both.
Caiman,
yes, for sure. That'd
Caiman.
probably be more succinct. But, regardless, toothy creatures that will kill you.
And then then we get a cutting away shot of Tim Allen looking at his ex-wife, and I assume they're probably going to get back together by like how they're
Hell yeah, they are.
they're hinting at that.
What's he been missing out in this past 13 years?
Yeah.
Sparks have been rekindled.
Yeah, he can forget about the lies.
And then they have the credit scene where he's at that little, introductorial ceremony. He has to brand his hands with the flaming embers, and he does it, and then he just runs out of the circle and screams, and then it cuts.
Yes, that's it.
It's ridiculous.
And we're
It's and after all this whole journey of him learning how to love again, he's still a goober.
Yes.
Oh, Tim.
New York didn't make him that cold. He knew where his heart was all along.
And that's it. That is Jungle to Jungle
God.
in the year 2025.
All right, 2 jokes that I want to throw out there
Okay.
that were lost in our playful banter. But the first morning, he leaves Mimisiku alone with his girlfriend, and the tarantula lets loose, and he's looking throughout the house. Remember, he lifts up the covers, and he says, "Nice poochie poochie."
Oh, yeah.
And she's not wearing anything. I would imagine that's a euphemism for something down below.
Yes.
I could be wrong, but
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh.
I think she responds and says, "No poochie poochie for you."
Yeah, that's exactly what she says.
Yeah.
That stuck with it. There was another line at the beginning. This is when Tim Allen and was talking with his wife upon first introduction after 13 years, and he says something to the effect of, "You're the mom who brought him down here to live with the Pirates of the Caribbean."
Yeah, what the fuck was
Disney
that?
plug there. Disney
Yeah,
plug
Disney-
had to.
They had to
Branding
plug
and whatnot.
themselves, yeah.
Yeah, vertical
Which is
integration.
Super insensitive, but it made me laugh.
And Disney also had to make sure that they made up a language for this movie.
yeah. Well, actually, no. It was real.
Did-
but
did
I
we
mean,
discover if it was
Panera, I don't want to mispronounce it. Panare is a real language spoken by indigenous people in Venezuela.
Check.
And there's a whole lexicon at Caracas University. It is a real fucking language. I don't know if language they used.
We can't verify that Wakatepe is actually
I tried to
Can
Google,
you
but
type in Poochie Poochie or whatever it is in your Google Translate
Let's see
somewhere?
if I can
Don't do
even
that on your work computer.
No,
Yeah, use a VPN.
Good.
See,
good
this
idea.
is
I'll just do
where
it on
if
my phone.
we had a budget and sponsors, like a VPN sponsor, I can lead right in. That would be great, wouldn't
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
it? If you own a VPN company, we're here.
Yeah. Help us Google Poochie Poochie at our leisure.
This was
Eric
another.
can do it on a Behind the Slate podcast. You get two for the price of one here.
Jesus Christ. This was a dark thought that I had, and y'all can scorn me for this if you don't deem it appropriate. But I thought a funny dark sequel that would never be created. It's all hypothetical. Is the Russian mafia finds out where they actually are now? Get the Kempsters. You got Tim Allen, and he comes out and they come down and just wipe them all out.
They just go cannibal holocaust.
Yeah,
on this.
they enact their revenge on them and the tribes people.
God.
Yeah.
Very dark. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
Hey,
I thought
there's
about it.
a day's worth of film missing. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe that could be in that.
Oh
So,
wow.
Yeah, and no one knows. The director is not even sure what's all in it.
If you know, let us know. We're
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, we need to know what happens in Jungle to Jungle 2.
Possibly a trilogy. We don't know. So, Aaron, let's start with you. You finally got to see it in the year 2025. How did Jungle to Jungle seem to you as an adult?
Honestly, there's no way I thought I would ever say this. I think it holds up.
You think so?
I do. I just come back to the actual technique of filmmaking on display here is respectable. I mean, Disney spares no expense. again, despite the absurd premise and the ridiculous dialogue and the bad jokes and like everything,
as well, but yeah.
and insensitiveness, yes, of course. How could I forget? How could I forget the insensitiveness?
I will say this, like on that point, I don't think it got as insensitive as I thought it was going.
It really
could be a lot worse.
I thought it was going to be way worse.
It's insensitive in premise, not so much in execution.
Yeah.
Except for its treatment of women, but
it's
more,
the 90s. We've thrown that out a long time ago.
Bechdel test has failed.
It's more insensitive in premise, and these sort of Orientalist fantasies that it's based upon, and the going native. A weird fantasy of Western Europeans. But no, I thought the execution was actually like pretty good. I was, dragged a little bit with that sort of episodic sketch nature that we talked about earlier, but I think it's still sort of sustained, and the sort of shifts in the relationship between Tim Allen and Mimisuku track, the through line carries through, and it leads to like a pretty satisfying climax. And I thought, again, like I enjoyed the actual tactile sensation of watching this film more than I enjoy watching most modern entertainment with its complete lack of extras, overuse of CGI, lack of real locations, and just sort of soulless filmmaking. So, yeah, I think it holds up.
That's fair.
Did it bring back a lot of childhood memories to you?
Yeah, just like the weird little scenes of like the passed out cat and stuff like that I thought was great as a kid. And I just remember the movie very vividly in my childhood brain.
Yeah, nice. Andrew?
Yeah, so I thought this was going to be a lot worse. Like I went into it thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to hate myself. This is going to be another Batman and Robin or Godzilla type thing. And I don't love Tim Allen, but he has a soft spot in my 90s kid's heart. So I was curious to see how I would enjoy it. And like, I don't think it holds up to the extreme. It's just kind of a barely holds up, but it does. It's not something that I'm going to go watch again in 6 months. No.
Yeah.
Maybe if I have kids, I would watch it with them. It'd be something that I would show them just to see how they react to it.
For the record, as a parent, I do not want to show my child this movie.
I would do it as
I saw it in your eyes from across the room.
psychological test. I would just be curious. But that would be the only time I'd go back and watch it. That's the only scenario in which I feel that I would willingly watch it is with a youngster. But I wouldn't want them to see
A
it.
youngster, not his child.
My
or
youngster,
anything.
sorry.
I think you could show a cousin, like a cousin, this movie.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be at the top of
Or niece and nephew.
the
niece and
list,
nephew.
but I do think it holds up just barely. But it does, and
Yeah.
I was, I wasn't impressed, but I came away, surprised that I actually enjoyed parts. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it barely holds up for me as someone who doesn't have an attachment for this movie. Like, I went back and forth. I do totally agree. Like, the filmmaking was really well done. I went in thinking this was going to be super insensitive, and it was only minorly insensitive. And I think for me, that was like enough. Now, I probably wouldn't watch this with anybody else. Like, I would not recommend this. This wouldn't be a film that I'm going to someone and being like, hey, you should watch Jungle to Jungle.
No.
I disinvited my wife from watching this with me. I just said, I have to go watch Jungle to Jungle. I need to do this alone.
Because it was your choice, though. Did you tell her that?
Well, I did tell her.
Okay.
Yeah, she knew.
Okay.
I don't think she was exactly chomping at the bit.
Yeah, you didn't go. You want to watch it with me?
Yeah, no, but that there was no invitation. Like, this was a private experience.
Gretchen casually watched with me, and she was just, reactions that you would assume.
Blair came into the room, saw it, and went, oh, yeah, I remember that movie, and walked out. And that was about that sums up Jungle to Jungle. But yeah, I agree. I think it holds up, but by the skin of its teeth.
Just one thing we always do at the end is we give it like our own IMDb score. So I want to do that before we forget. So Aaron, go ahead. Give it a score out of 10. Just, you can be as harsh as you want too. It's fun to put in our perspective.
Yeah, no, I want to be fair and balanced here.
He gives it a 9.3.
Hell yeah.
No. I think, we can give decimals in IMDb
For sure,
scores,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So
we welcome decimals.
Okay, so I'm gonna give this a 3.6.
Okay.
I think a 3.6.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to go a little bit higher than that and say like a 4.5.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It didn't, 3.6 to me, like that just, sends off alarms and would make me angry for watching it. And I don't feel that way. I don't think 4.6 is good by any means.
Well,
my scale is just a little bit,
But here's my thing is that I always think like IMDb and Letterboxd and Rotten Tomatoes, it's always like biased towards this feeling of like, oh, well, like I don't want to be mean to the movie. But by saying it's 4.5, you are saying that Jungle to Jungle is better than 44% of all the movies that exist. Is that, you want to go on the record and say that?
No, it's just based more on a feeling.
He's gonna die on that hill.
You could talk me down to the high threes, but to be fair to some nostalgia that it made me feel, and I guess Tim Allen's insatiable charm and comedic wit, I'm going to keep it at 4.5. I could go 4.2 in a heartbeat, but I'm keeping it 4.5.
I was going to say 4.1, but now you've scared me. And I think,
speak your mind.
Yeah. Don't
Speak your
biased.
truth, King.
But that makes me land on a real, like an actual score that I think 3.9 for me.
3.9.
And just for the record, it's actually a 5.2 on IMDb, which I think is still too
Jesus
high.
Christ.
So,
Well, and we talked about this before. Like the reason we talk about this podcast is because you can still vote for these movies and you can still like juice the scores. I feel like all these like movies that we watched when we were kids are getting juiced by, I remember that movie that was really good when I was little.
Yeah.
And they haven't seen it since then.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
And to let you know, don't juice the Jungle to Jungle score. Don't push it over 5. In fact,
No.
Go vote for it to come down a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, what I just put out there is really like what I would say to anybody rating movies. Like, you remember, you were saying that it's better than this percentage of films. Always. Because, people on Letterboxd, they're throwing around 3 stars. Like, there's no tomorrow.
I do love when you do the Letterboxd reviews before your show at the Plaza. That's the best part, The whole show's great, but like that's like I'm there for that.
Yes. For those who don't know, I give an intro historical context like mini podcast, then we watch the movie and then we open up an audience discussion. But to kind of get the juices flowing, I read bad Letterboxd reviews of people just hating on these like all-time great movies, which is just, it's also like kind of humbling because it's like, there's just always haters out there.
Always.
it's like celebrities reading like mean tweets about them where they're just completely shitting on them. It's the same vein.
Exactly.
So,
Well, Aaron, before we get out of here, what do you want to tell us about your upcoming movie? Is there anything you can tell us about it?
Yeah, so it's a feature film that I've been working on for a couple years now. This will be my first feature that I've ever made.
Congrats, man.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks so much. It tells a sort of heart-wrenching story about 2 young lovers battling heroin addiction. And it follows them through the course of a single night as they're trying to kick the drug so that they can get onto this other drug called Suboxone that helps people get off the opiates. And it follows them through the course of a night. And as they're doing that, they're going through their memories and sort of tracing back their relationship to see how they got here. That's been my main focus for a number of years, and I'm really excited. We're going to be doing our premiere here soon. I can't quite share the details on that, but if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram at Stranded on Stage or the film's Instagram at Withdrawal Film, we'll be dropping all the details about the premiere here in Atlanta and then future showings throughout the rest of the year.
Awesome. We definitely can't wait. We'll be there opening night. So love the work that you do. Again, Aaron Strand, you can catch him on upcoming Withdrawal. Date to be decided. Follow him on social media. And then Behind the Slate, great podcast. And then Crash Zoom, right? Like that's the new one.
Yeah, you
can baby.
Check out the podcast, and you can also, if you're hearing this before January 23rd, come out to the Plaza. We'll be screening Cleo from 5 to 7 by Agnes Varda.
Yeah.
thanks for being a gracious guest and putting up with our shittiness over here. So
he tagged out with Kyle, and that was that's something to be said there. But you know what we do here? We reached inside your childhood memory banks. We pulled Jungle to Jungle out from your memory.
You're welcome.
And we decided it holds up. So maybe go watch it, maybe don't. I don't recommend it. Aaron says maybe not. Andrew says if you're a child, you can go watch it. So go watch Jungle to Jungle, and we will see you next time.